Hi, I'm Lee Rosen of the Rosen Law Firm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Today we're going to talk about child support. Recently, I had the opportunity to help a mom that needed child support. Her name is Helen, and she has 3 children. They're ages 7, 9, and 11, 2 girls and a boy. Now, her husband has a good job and a good income. He is, however, self-employed. Helen was concerned that her husband would hide income and would attempt to pay less in support than he owed. She had some relatives, I think, that were getting her worried about that and were talking about it a lot. At our first meeting, Helen and I did some calculations, and we determined how much child support Helen was owed according to the North Carolina child support guidelines. You can look at the guidelines and do the math for yourself at a calculator that we have set up at rosen.com. Now, the numbers that Helen and I ran were guesstimates. We didn't know exactly how much her husband earned. We didn't have any documentation. So we plugged some numbers in and made some guesses because she wanted to get a general idea about what the support would be. After that meeting, I went ahead and I contacted Helen's husband and asked him to provide us with his income tax returns and some of the other records for his business. Helen also went to work. She went home and she copied some records. She went through the file cabinet and photocopied a bunch of things that she thought would be important. We worked together on a list. One thing that I think you should know is that she bought a copier just for this purpose. The copier was only $65. It was one of those multi-function printers that has a copier built in. I wanted you to know about that because copying things at home can be pretty easy and cheap, and it's really not as difficult as some people might imagine. Now, about 2 weeks later, Helen's husband's lawyer provided us with the records that we'd asked for, the tax returns and the business records, and we compared what they gave us to what Helen had found at home and to some old tax returns that we had found. And we became pretty confident that everything that we had received was accurate and that income was not being hidden. Helen and I also did some talking about the way that the family had been living, their lifestyle, and we concluded that all the numbers matched up pretty well with what their lifestyle was like. So we really didn't believe that there was any income being hidden. At that point, we plugged some more numbers into the child support calculator, and we started negotiating. After only a week, Helen got her first child support check. Her husband made that payment and has made a payment on the first of every month since then. Now, that's not unusual. You know, we hear all these horror stories about child support, about people not getting paid, but the reality is that the horror stories are the exception. They're not the norm. Most child support cases go pretty smoothly. Most are resolved without going to court. And I want you to know that it makes more sense to put your energy into reaching an amicable agreement on child support. Don't allow the upset relatives, the people that need to be on your side, to get you focused on courtrooms rather than settlement. Now, when you're working on child support, be careful not to let it serve as something more than support for children. It shouldn't become a symbol of the conflict in your relationship. Don't withhold it. Don't demand more of it. Don't make late payments or anything else as a means of perpetuating a dispute with your former spouse. When those things happen, when people do those things, the children suffer. They either don't get the help financially that they need, or they suffer from the emotional turmoil of the conflict. Child support is for the children, and it should be resolved amicably. In Raleigh, we have a very good government-provided service for establishing and collecting child support. Child support can also be handled by your divorce attorney. To find out more about the system provided by the state, visit ncchildsupport.com. To find out more about private attorneys, visit our site at rosen.com. Obviously, we can't reach agreement in every child support case. And when we reach an impasse in negotiation, it's a good thing we have judges and courts to make sure that children are taken care of. But most cases, and very likely your case, can be resolved without going to court. I'm Lee Rosen for the Rosen Law Firm.